Hey everybody, Mark Vogt with VOGTLAND Outdoors. One question on my mind, one thing I never got to talk about regarding fly fishing, fly casting is, does everybody ever wonder how you can compare if you're casting a really long way or if you're not? You hear people talking about, oh, I was casting 50 yards. You hear other people say, I was casting 110, or I was casting 50 feet. You hear other people say, I was casting 110 feet. Are they the same? Is one better than the other? Are 80-foot casts better? Is there a way to compare? Yeah, the answer is super simple, guys. It's always about in comparison to the length of the rod. Everybody says you need, 30 feet. You need 30 feet of line outside of your rod tip in order to load the rod, to have enough mass at the end that moving the line back and forth will actually bend the rod, store energy with it, and then release that energy and roll the line. It's not about 30 feet, guys. It's about how many times that is times a normal 9-foot rod. And if you think about it, 9 times 3.3 is what gives you 30 feet. That's where it comes from, the number 3.3, the magic number. And if you guys are Skagit casters and you're spey casters, then one thing, you're the ones that first started hearing about this, because you'll hear all of the great Skagit casters say the magic number is the line, the head, the part that casts, has to be 3 to 3.5 times the rod length. That's where you get the magic weighting. That's where the number comes in. So now you know where the 30 comes in. It's not about the number 30. It's that actually is 3.3 times the rod length of a typical 9-foot single-handed rod. Which means, how do you compare how far you cast with that to say a 15-foot rod? If I'm casting a 15-foot spey rod and I'm casting 125 feet, am I a better caster or a worse caster than the guy that can get an 80-foot cast out of a 9-foot rod? The answer is simple. You talk about it in terms of rod lengths. To minimally make the rod cast, you need to have 3.3 times the length of the rod out of the tip. So unless you're an idiot, 3.3 is the minimum anybody needs to cast. Then one extra rod length, let's call it 4 times the rod length is a perfectly okay cast. 5 times, 6 times, if it's a 9-foot rod, 6 times the rod length is 6 times 9, 54 feet. That's a 50-foot cast. Are you proud of a 50-foot cast? If you were using a single-handed 9-foot rod, 50-foot cast, yeah. If you could do that all day long, if you've got your art perfected to where you're doing 50-foot casts all day long with a 9-foot rod, then you're operating at 9 times 6. You're operating at 6x, let's call it. 6x is a number to be proud of. 3x is the minimum to make the rod cast. 4 and 5, anybody can learn how to do 4x and 5x. 6x, now you're starting to impress people. 7x, 8x, you are at the top shelf. You are about as good as it gets. And unless you do something magic to the rod, 9 and 10 and 11x are out of range. But if you're reaching 9 times the rod length, 9 times 9, 81-foot casts, and you're doing that with a lure on the end, not that you're casting purely for distance, but it's a fishing rod that you're using, and you're getting 9x, hey guys, you're in the stratosphere. So now let's apply this to a spey caster. The spey caster with a 15-foot rod, if he's doing 10x, he's casting 150 feet. So we know that's godhood. If you hit 10x, then he should be throwing a 150-foot cast. He's champion quality. 9x, he's going to be 15 feet less than that, so 135. If he's 8x, he's going to be 15 feet less than that. He's going to be 120. So you hear the guy that's actually casting 120 feet with his spey rod, the first question you ask is, how long is the rod? If the rod's a 15-footer, then 120 feet is really only 8x. He's a good caster, but he's not a god. It's just 8x. 8x it's like 72 feet on a 9-foot rod. So the guy that casts 72 feet on a 9-foot rod is at the same skill level with his single-handed cast as the two-handed spey caster that's hitting 120 feet with the 15-footer. Me, I run around all day long with a 12-foot rod. That's this one. So what's a really good cast? You guys hear me bragging about pumping out 100 and 105-foot casts. 105-foot cast on a 12-foot or an 11-foot, or actually on a 10-foot rod, If I'm getting to 100 feet, barely breaking 100, that's my 10x, guys. So I'm really proud of that. If I've got an 11-foot rod, and this one's what? This is 12 foot even. 12 foot even, so 10x would be 120 feet. Subtract 12 feet from that, you get 108. So I'm at 9x. If I'm throwing out 109 feet, 105 foot cast, I'm at 9x. Everybody's going to be proud of that. If you're actually shooting 9 times the rod length, yeah, you're a darn good caster. I hope that you guys find that useful. Always ask those questions. When you hear somebody talking about how long his cast is and he's bragging, ask him how long his rod is, and then calculate. Don't be surprised. It's nothing if it's 3x, if it's 4x, if it's 5x. It's nothing. He's a C grade caster. If he's 7x, 8x, he's a B. If he's 8x, 9x, he's an A. If he's a 10x, he's an A plus. 10x, or especially when I'm talking about like fishing rods, guys, not casting tournament rods. They're not the same. They're not. I hope you guys find that useful. Give it a try and tell me what your thoughts are. This is Marfo with VOGTLAND Outdoors. Please feel free to subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you out there. Bye. Got only 30 minutes left. Got to keep fishing with everybody else. Just caught a really nice little 14-inch spearmint green smallmouth bass. Ah, what a night. Bye. Outtake, I just realized I'm not done yet. If you're watching other casters and you're trying to understand just at a glance if they're good or not, you're no idiot. Put your thumb out there, measure the length of their rod by using your thumb. Move your thumb in and out until it completely covers the butt end and the tip end of the rod, and then measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Measure the length of their cast, and you'll be able to tell 2 things. 1, whether or not they're a good caster, and 2, whether or not they're actually using a matched line. How do I know this? If they're casting well, and they're throwing out what looks like 4 times the rod length of the line, chances are they're using a well-matched line. But if you see them and it looks like they're casting well, and there's clearly only 2 rod lengths out of the tip, what do you know? It's simple. You know that they actually have a higher mass, that maybe they've got a 5-weight rod and they've got an 8-weight line on there, because it only required 2 times the length of the rod in order to start loading the rod tip up so that they could cast. That's a very common thing when you're throwing heavy lures towards fish that you know that aren't afraid, like smallmouth bass. We do it all the time, guys. We use 2 rod lengths. We overweight our rods so that we're able to carry a very large lure without having to require 3 times the rod length outside the tip of the rod. 2 rod lengths, even 1. That's what's so cool about switch lines and stuff. I can actually have 1 rod length, and it's got 1 rod length of line out the tip of my rod, and there's still plenty of mass to carry a great big hook. I mean, like a 1/16 of an ounce type of hook, big. So you can watch somebody and you can tell whether or not they really are casting, whether or not they're dangling, whether or not they're a good caster, how good a caster they are. 6, 7, 8, 9x times the rod length, just using either your hand. You can go like this to get their rod, and then you use your hand to measure the length of the cast. And right away, there's your 4x, there's 5x. You can see how far their cast is just at a glance. Super easy. And you can tell whether or not they're overmassing, overloading the rod because they're going after a fish other than a trout. Hope you guys found that useful too. Back to fishing. Only got about 20 minutes of daylight left. Bye.